It was Tesla's largest single-day decline in value in its history. So there's a tiff going on, and I think the latest I've seen is that the Trump administration says they're going to have a conversation with Elon Musk later today.
Good luck. Right?
Yeah,
good luck to
they're
them.
both
Clash of the egos.
Clash of the egos. Clash of the egos. Another story we're following for you. Chad's President Idris Deby orders suspension of issuance of visas to U.S. citizens after its nationals were included in a U.S. travel ban targeting 12 countries. In a social media post, President Idris Deby said, "I instructed the government to act in accordance with the principles of reciprocity and suspend the issuance of visas to citizens of the U.S. Chad has no plans to offer, no billions of dollars to give, but Chad has its dignity and its pride." The African Union Commission has said that it, quote, respectfully appeals to the United States to exercise this right in a manner that is balanced, evidence-based, and reflective of the long-standing partnership between the U.S. and Africa.
I think it should be that way. Let's go visa for visa, entry for entry. Yeah. And again, if you want to stop people from Chad, from Somalia, from Eritrea, all those other countries that were named, Afghanistan, Pakistan, from entering your country, then they should be able to do the same, honestly. I think it should just be how things operate. I don't get why borders are a thing, but now that you've made them a thing, let's be reciprocal about it.
And I think people are becoming more emboldened about it.
You can just walk into any country, and then on the flip side, someone else has to run through ridiculous hoops, you know? You ever see movies where people spin the globe and they're like, "I'm going there." And I'm like, not with my passport.
Not on my turf.
Can't even dream of it.
I think one day we should actually have that conversation about the very many countries that just will not allow a Kenyan to visit that country. Not because we don't have diplomatic relations, just because they looked at your application and they felt, meh. Sijiski, and you've paid money, and they've stayed there with your passport for weeks, and then they come back and tell you, "We don't think you've supplied sufficient proof that you will come back to your country."
I don't
because you didn't attach it, because you didn't give them a title deed to say, "See, I have this piece of land, I can't run. I have a family."
It's indignifying. And I think we've talked about it, and I think it's becoming a big conversation because a lot of people are beginning to be rooted in their identity again. Maybe it was always there, but now people are louder. They're loving themselves out loud, and they're like, "You don't need to see me the way I see myself, so you stay."
Right.
But at the same time, I'd like a refund, please.
That's the thing.
That part. I would like a refund.
That's the thing. It's cost a lot. Wakonyo Gicuhi-Igeria, a retired coach and everything. Now she's not retired coach. She's retired advocate. Now she's just coaching and mentoring and doing all those things. As we're going into the break, Wakonyo, I asked you, so when you talk to the younger generation and you mention retirement, those that listen, is their view of retirement the same as yours? And those that don't listen, why don't they?
You know, that conversation with young people always makes me very excited because I see myself. So I don't judge them because I see myself. It's there, far in the distance. And so for them, we have time. But I think what is changing now is that a lot of young people are becoming their own bosses, very young, with their own businesses, setting out their own outfits earlier in life. When I was a young person, your one goal was to get a job and a good job and stay in that job and get a pension. And that was when we were young.
And it worked.
Exactly. And things are shifting now. So the young people realize that I need something that's going to sustain me for this period of time, and then I can slow down and give it up to other people. So my conversation with them has changed. At which point will you stop leading this outfit that you're starting? And when you stop leading it, what will you be doing? So the conversation is really a live conversation, and they're excited about it, that actually it's true. We will retire. We will move on from where we are, and what does it look like?
I love that.
Massive shift there in how the world works. But I don't know if now how we plan for retirement should also shift. Because you said it correctly. You go to school, you secure this job, you climb through the ranks, you retire, get your pension, and plant capsicum or just chill, whatever floats your boat. But they're not that there's anything wrong with farming, just to be clear. But now that we're doing things so differently, how we prepare for retirement has to look different as well. And I'm thinking of the person who does want to hopefully have some idea, like shift or do something different or repurpose themselves, retool, but they also want a safety net, just a good old-fashioned retirement safety net. What advice would you give them?
I would say this: regardless of what season in life you're in, there will come a time that you will slow down. That's a given. You will get to an age where what you're doing in your 20s and 30s, you cannot pull off in your 50s and 60s. It will happen. But your slowing down does not mean that you stop. It just means you shift to what is more relevant. I said earlier, when in my 20s, I could have done burpees. Now, with a total knee replacement and my age, it's not going to happen. So what is it that you're needing to do now to secure that comfort? Not comfort, really, but that way of life for yourself. What are you investing in now that will help you pay your bills and live the life that you want to live? That's standard. The time is coming where perhaps you will need to look at what you are saving, what you are investing to carry you for seasons in your life. What will that look like? You will still need a medical cover. You will still need to go on your annual holiday if you want to do that. You will still need to buy bread and milk. You will still need to live. What will that look like in the years where you're not as active as you are as a young person? And then what does preparing for that look like? Have those conversations. The minute, and I say this to a lot of young people, the minute you earn money in whatever capacity, you should be saving for the time when you slow down and shift gears.
That's good advice. Just put some aside for that. A lot of what you're speaking to also speaks to resilience. I think I feel like that's one of the key factors that's needed. How would you define resilience in your own journey? What were those moments that tested your resilience, but that also strengthened your resolve?
I love the word resilience. I was listening to somebody recently, one of the orators I completely love. And it helped me understand that I need to be a resilient person, especially in transitions, because resilience is very different from endurance. Endurance is you're enduring a tough season. Resilience means that you're adapting emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally towards a situation. That's resilience. And I realized in different seasons in my life, resilience meant different things. As a young person, resilience was getting myself hard, trying to get myself into certain rooms. That was what resilience was. And listening to people looking at me like, I remember, one of my first jobs, one of the first boards I sat on, I was the youngest on that board and I was the only lady. I mean, how many things were working against me at that
double
point?
Double whammy.
And I'm just fortunate that I had such a great board at that point. But did I feel some sort of kind of way when, would go out and something happens, somebody knocks over their tea and everyone looks at me and I'm thinking, I'm a lawyer. I
was about to ask if people were like asking you to pour them tea.
I know.
It's still happens to this day.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Resilience means navigating the conversation so that you're never being obnoxious. So that when that happens, the person means well. You're the youngest in the room and you're a lady. I mean, it's quote unquote, that's what's expected. So don't be obnoxious and say, no, I'm a lawyer. I don't do cups pouring tea. But find a way, stand up graciously, look for a waiter, sit down and continue. You've not been obnoxious, but you've shifted that delegation elsewhere and you've continued in the role that brought you to the room in the beginning. Resilience means being able to have those conversations and knowing that those things will happen because this is life and they will happen. How do you navigate them?
You're so much more gracious.
Mariam, you'd be like, cannot be me.
No, I would just pour my cup of tea and sit down.
That's true. And let them look around
and just figure it out.
But that's that chapter. Then there's been several other chapters because there's a lot of people also listening, watching and thinking, I'm trying to navigate resilience in this chapter of life. So that was when you were younger. Were there other chapters where resilience was tested or you used the statement just now, it looks different in different stages.
Exactly. Very recently, my resilience has been tested in losing my firstborn. My son was all sorts of amazing, and my plan was, I'm going to grow old with him. I'm going to watch him gray into a silver fox and say, that's my Mboro, you know. And a day to his 30th birthday, God said, it's time. Resilience at that point was not being strong. It was understanding that this thing can't take me out. This thing needs to be able to grow me. And, you know, having the tough conversations, you know, I'm a person of faith. And I remember having a conversation with God and telling God, two things will happen. One of two things will happen. Either I lose my faith completely or I trust you completely, and I choose to trust you completely. Then how do I show up? Resilience means showing up every single moment. This is 3 months later. I cry every single day without fail. You know, I'll just think about something and I'll burst into tears. Resilience means that those tears won't take me out. Sometimes I'm crying, then I start laughing because I imagine Boro telling me, okay, Mom, let's stop crying. Now you go and do this, you know? So that's what resilience means in this season. Somebody wanted to know from me, how do you show up on social media after you've lost your son? And I remember that was hard because for a month I was like, what do I post? And then I started posting #HowIGrieve. And it was a very vulnerable space for me. But what happened after that? My DMs, the messages I got from women all over the world who had lost their sons. And I remember one lady said, I am so grateful. And she put it as a comment, you know, an open comment. She said, I'm so grateful to hear you because I've been stuck since my son passed on. You're helping me unstuck. And I remember one of the posts saying, immediately I finished that post, I was in tears. I mean, completely. And people who know me could tell that by the time I was finishing that post, Waki, where she was going, she was on a downward trajectory. That is resilience. It has never meant strength. It has just meant really showing up and giving my best.
Right. First of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. And Boru was an amazing guy. I had the pleasure of interviewing him and interacting with him on a few occasions. And I hadn't made the connection until I was doing research for today's interview that I was like, but the light that he has, you have as well. Wow. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It radiates. When you say resilience shifts over time, and you've given what that looks like, I think for a lot of people, it's covered as like false strength. Like you've said, it's not that I am tough, I am, this kind of person. What are the things that ground a person so that you're able to be this resilient person? There's like the foundation of the resilience, What's the pouring in so that now you're able to face the world?
I think unashamedly for me, my faith has been my grounding factor. That's how I start my day. A lot of people will say, start your day, meditation, and whatever works for you. For me, my grounding has been my faith of, I am not here because of any amazing thing I've done. That has been it. And then recognizing that, and Boro's death has taught me that again and again, that I'm here for a limited amount of time. And when that time is up, I can't even negotiate it like, God, please, 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 just 6 more months. Because, there are those people who I hadn't spoken to, and there's that lady there who, in fact, was waiting for me. Right. No. And now I'm in that space where I can live life with an urgency of, if I need to do something, I need to do it now. No. Because I just don't know. But resilience means that every morning I get up, there are days, honestly, I'll get up and I'm thinking, God, it's a good time for the rapture. I'm so tired,
I could use a break, like a big break.
A big break. Exactly. But then I keep telling, if I have opened my eyes, there's a reason for that day. And the reason could be in a supermarket, the person at the till who just needs to be told, I really like your shirt. And I'm that person. I will compliment you, how you take it, really. I can't, but I will compliment you because I think that I need to do it. And sometimes somebody will say, thanks, I needed to hear something else. So resilience isn't really against strength. It's showing up and just being the best that you can with what you have available to you.
On the flip side, what are those things that have proved with time to be just absolutely useless? And it's just like, there's no need for me to be like the traffic, like that traffic thing. Yeah, those other things now, especially in regards to relationships and to work, things that you've just learned over time. It's inconsequential in the bigger picture.
I think, especially in relationships, there are times something can go wrong. And I'm that person, I'm like, I'm so sad. Why did they think about me like that? Or why did they say that? And that happened a lot, especially in the corporate space. Later on, I realized that was so insignificant in the scheme of things. When I said what I needed to say and I stand by it, how they received it, I had no control. So let me not try and control their narrative, you know. There's so many things these days that, you know how we say don't sweat the small stuff? It's so true, you know. Or something will happen, I'll go to the supermarket, not find what I want, and I'm like, why wouldn't they have it? Why am I sweating that small stuff, you know? Or, you know, there are times when there's a blackout and I'm thinking, the company, why would this happen, you know? And then I said, this is an opportunity for me to light my candles that smell nice. You know, I refuse to allow things I cannot control to now be the CSI of how I'm going to live my life.
Right.
There's some things that are in the scheme of things. Relationships that aren't working, what are we going to do about them? My daughter always challenges me about how if a relationship is not working, go out there and try and solve it. She's 27 on her way to 45. But just what she's saying is true. What you can do, do it. What you can't do, release it.
As people go into retirement, because I still want to hold that, it sounds like it just helps to dismantle certain myths early. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how people can do that. But there's somebody thinking retirement means everything you spoke to. I'm going to be lonely. It's going to be hard. Grieving will be harder. Relationships. What are some of the tools to dismantle some of these things, these myths early, as you get into that? Because I think going in with those myths makes it heavier. Because you begin to believe the myths that it is lonely, etc. Did you find that you had to dismantle some myths intentionally before getting to a certain phase in life?
Absolutely, and then some I wasn't prepared for. I think it's important that we actually are cognizant of the fact that retirement it is scary because you've never been there before. And I say this because I had many titles I picked up along the way. I had many people who looked for me in one given day from big offices, you know.
Phone always ringing.
And the phone, you know, there's one of our people who said that his phone stopped ringing. I know that feeling of, I checked my phone, is it actually working? Because people will stop calling you and it's not because they mean ill to you. They don't need you, period. And when you get when it gets to you that actually they needed you, now they don't need you. And you realize that your circle will grow smaller and smaller. You recognize that even some relationships will shift. Hey, that's a hard statement. Some relationships will shift because there were relationships you had because of the space that you're in. You're in a different space. Are you okay to make new friends, make new acquaintances? And then you dismantle the myth of nobody's going to need me anymore. In every season, there are going to be people who will need you. Just look up and look for those people. Don't be stuck on the ones who needed you before. I had a surprise party from the staff before I left, and they all went round saying what I meant to them. You know what surprised me? Nobody said, I'm so excited that you changed the bank constitutive documents whilst you are here. No one said you set up the legal department, which I did 20 years back. No one said those things. It was about how I made them feel. And that was such a challenge to me because I've grown people, but now as I leave, they talk about how I made them feel. Guess what? I'm going to another season where I can make people feel. So I broke down the fear of I will no longer be necessary. Then I embraced the notion that I'll be necessary in a different capacity.
In a different way.
That's so important. That's a very important distinction to make.
People don't remember what you said. They'll remember how you made them feel. In this case, they won't remember all the things you did. Or, built this and that, but how you made them feel. Unless, of course, you're like curing cancer or something, then they'll remember. Absolutely. But trying to think through a more structural look at it. We are in a very young country, and for a lot of people, there's a feeling like, you know what, people aren't leaving the workforce quick enough. I don't know, from a structural perspective, is there a way we can encourage retirement with a YRE and get it to be more common so that, one, natural attrition continues and that young people can enter the workforce, and then two, also that people find a different purpose? Because, retirement is scary, I can get that. The idea of, I'm just meant to stop now, what's that, right? But if you're retiring with a Y, that's purposeful, less scary, less daunting maybe.
You know, what I love about what you said is that we need to make space for the younger generation to come in. I am that person who says, if you're over 60 and you're extending your contract for 3 years, another 3 years, another 3 years, something's not correct. Because you have served your season in that space that needed 60 years. Let other people come in. You come back as a consultant, as a mentor. And that's why I've really been passionate, speaking to people like me and saying, let's create that hub where we're giving back, which is completely different from sitting in those seats. I'll carefully say, not just the corporate jobs and the entrepreneurial jobs, even in the jobs of leading countries. Isn't there a level where the younger people can come in and begin to lead so that we are sitting back as consultants? I'm very happy to sit there and, and talk to young people and say, this is what leadership looks like and this is what governance looks like. You run with it. We have to make space because everybody is relevant. Understand where you are relevant.
That part, you are. And remember, we've been trying to talk. We even tried to tell some of our guests, what about co-leading? They're like, no. Maybe they're going to want to amass wealth. I'm like, no.
You want to amass wealth. You're the one amassing wealth.
Oh, you were the one. That was your perception. That's what you did.
Exactly.
Yes. But I love what she's saying. It's like you're still going to be... You'll even hear people say, I tried to scale in this organization, but I felt like whether it was, I don't know, male or female boss was stifling. And I'm like, I just wish people knew that you'll always have space. It's just a different way that you're needed. Yeah. But that doesn't seem to click for a lot of people. I think people hold on to identity and career so closely that you can't see it shifting in any other way. Yeah.
It's the only space you know.
It's the only space you know.
In fact, therein is a statement. It's the only space you know. Learn other spaces. Waki space came from identifying other spaces. I woke up one day and I said, if they take this job, if they take this, what is left? And when people ask me what is Waki space, it's that space I discovered that I can feel for the rest of life that I'm here on earth. And a lot of young people I will ask when I'm coaching, I'm like, let's talk about your space. People call it your personal brand. I will tell them, let's talk about your space. What are you feeling? Is it fulfilling you? And what space do you want to fill in the next 5 years? It is the same thing for a person in their 20s, in their 40s, in their 50s. What is the space you're feeling? And are you feeling it okay?
Waki space, you have it on open.
Yeah, so it's on Instagram, Waki's _space. So you have quite a following, and it's growing.
Yeah, it's growing.
And then you post all this content, and there's video content. A lot of it is video content. Pacing, peace, and healing. Seasons that change you. Hashtag, this is how I heal. Hashtag, the battle in my mind, and so on and so forth. How often do you create this content?
When I'm asked that question, I'm always like, why? I think I'm creating it every moment I go along because I go around with my phone under notes. Everything that I see that is a life lesson, I will put a note, and then it will become a clip.
Right.
So in one day, I probably have 5 clips, and then I'll sit down and speak to my phone or my iPad. Yeah.
And create it as one.
Yes.
Because there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot. Whom have you noticed as your audience? Is it younger people? Is it those who are close to retiring? Or is it retirees?
The amazing thing is, a lot of maybe there are a lot of people my age who will comment, but the people who will send things into my DMs are usually the young people. That's what really amazes me. And so I realized that maybe they have the courage to ask me the tough questions. And then the older people will affirm me because, we're age group. So they're feeling this is a person in my, whatever we say, of my rika, we're of the age group. However, a lot of the young people will ask me tough questions, which I love completely.
Yeah. Esther Wanjiku on YouTube says she's a gracious woman. Waki space is so inspirational. Rebecca wants to get in touch with you. Do you say DM me?
I tell people DM me, send me messages, and I take 45 minutes every day to look at the messages.
I love that.
So that I'm able to just be a real person online.
So you can respond right there and then. So I just wanted, what you've talked about is experience gained over the years. And when you talk to younger people and they're looking at you and they're thinking you're Methuselah. They're like, okay, so you're talking about those things that you were doing when? How is that relevant to me, right? How do you respond? Because in a way, what they're saying is, what those things you're talking about that were happening in the 80s, that was the 80s. That was 20 years before I was born. It doesn't really relate to me today. You are old.
Yes.
How do you respond to that?
First of all, I am very clear in my mind that what happened when I was a young person might be completely different from what is happening now. But there are some things that remain the same. And I always say, listen to what I have to say and then improve on it. One of the things I tell my children and a lot of the young people is that I have a baton which I'm handing over to you. Recognize this baton is so imperfect, but I'm giving it to you to perfect with what your situations and circumstances are now. Am I old? Absolutely. Am I enjoying being old? Completely. One of the young people sent me a message, they were trying to help my life on social media. They were really trying. And I really thank God for that person who wanted to help my life, who told me, anyway, worky space, what you can do, invest in better cameras and whatever, because there are some which will actually hide your wrinkles. And I thought, hey. And the person was helping. They wanted to help my life. But you know what was exciting for me? Exactly. And it gave me an opportunity to tell them that when you get to my age, there's no amount of camera tricks that will hide some things. It was a great opportunity to have that. And I said to this person that they're a sign that I have lived.
Right.
And I'm still here and I'm grateful. So you switch the narrative from, try and hide these things and then embrace it. So the young people allow me to embrace my age and allow me to be who I am. And then I say to them, you perfect this baton as you grow.
Do they take those lessons?
A lot of them have and do, because I've watched a lot of them grow in different spaces. I won't begin to say their names, but as I watch them grow, it adds value. One young lady, I used to bring young ladies to my house to mentor, and she used to say how no one takes her seriously because she has a very high voice. This was actually almost 18 years ago.
Wow.
And we talked to her and told her, you have a beautiful voice, a beautiful voice. My greatest joy was when she finished Daystar University, she became a journalist, and I was sitting down in my living room listening to her saying, this is so-and-so reporting for this media house. That was it.
Wow.
From you not being confident about your voice to the whole nation listening to you. So do they listen? They listen. Do they listen to everything? No. But whatever you listen to, I'm okay.
Right. What about the flip side? What do you learn from your mentees and the young people in your life?
I learn so much every single day. Social media. I learn that leadership styles are going to change. I learn conversations. I have learned so many things from Boro. I continue to learn so many things from Mamoshe. There are days I sit down just to soak in because they're living in a space that I've never been in.
Right.
And if I try to show up relevantly to them in a space that I've never been, then we can lose each other. I learn so much. I learn what to wear. If you knew what I was going to wear coming here.
What was the original plan?
I'm not going to say. However, my daughter said, Mom, you look like you're going to a choir. So we changed completely everything,
This outfit is fire, by the way. It's this and some black pants and sneakers. It's fire.
I wasn't going to wear the sneakers. Yeah, then my daughter said, Mom, so I learn. And I'm okay to learn. I don't want to come here and then people think I need to break into a song. I learn what is relevant and I'm okay to learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay teachable.
Funny.
You've talked extensively
She
about...
left the headscarf.
Come on.
Like I said, I'm not going to say what I was going to wear.
You say you left the headscarf. It's true about listening to
It was good
to generations. Kids
And being teachable.
Being teachable. The other day, my kids have noticed a significant drop in my energy levels given my new shift of coming in the morning. And yesterday, one of them said something profound. They were like, maybe it's just a dent.
Right.
Maybe it's just a now. I think maybe you'll get stronger.
Wow.
I think so.
It was unprovoked. I was just like, hiya. You're looking like, where was the script? Where was the...
And it's just...
But I think if you allow yourself to hear, because you can be very dismissive and be like, oh, I need to... So
That's
it's true.
profound.
It's very profound.
That is very profound. And it's just like, I get tired sometimes, and then I rest, and then I feel better. And it's like, okay, that's going to be the same for mom.
Yeah, pretty much.
Logic, 1 + 1.
So it's about being, I think, remaining teachable and hearing. And I think sometimes people lose that. You're like, what can so-and-so tell me that I, of course I know. But it's like, no, you haven't lived the life they're living. Their perspective is significantly different, and it could add to your perspective.
True. Hey, when you think about your teachability, something I wanted to put out, because you've consistently talked about, you know what, I went back to school, I needed to get certified for this, I needed to get certified for this. And even now you talked about now learning from just the people around you, from your children, from the internet. How do you keep the hunger for knowledge alive? Because sometimes life can make you lose curiosity, which is a sad thing. But yeah, when you lose that curiosity, then you don't learn as much, you're resigned to your ways. So how do you keep that hunger for knowledge and curiosity?
The older I've grown, I realized I had to embrace certain disciplines, because when you go into retirement, you can actually decide to do nothing. And so I decided that I needed to have some disciplines that kept me accountable to myself. So every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturday, I will say that for 30 minutes today, I must either be reading a book that builds me, or listening to a podcast that builds me, or something that is going to provoke my thoughts. And I will do it daily. Not because I'm preparing for something, but I'm preparing for life every single day. Every day I wake up, I'm preparing for life. So that has kept me teachable, because every time I listen to something, it provokes something. The last time I was training on leadership, I realized, oh, I need to add this because this is really exciting. So it has kept me alive. And there's so much on the internet now to learn from. You don't even need to move away from your phone to be listening. When I go for meetings, I will always have a book in my bag, something I can read, something I can build with, so that I'm not sitting and staring at people's walls. I'm actually reading something, so that if the meeting is running late, I'm still okay.
Right.
And then I never arrive for meetings on the dot. I always give myself 20 minutes extra, because also I have to settle down, breathe. I'm not at the age where I can just fly into a place anymore. So I'm able to settle down and, is there an English word? Gather myself.
Yeah, ground and center yourself. Yeah.
That's the word, thank you. Center myself. And that has kept me grounded and allowed me to keep growing and be relevant in my growth.
I know Jana is like that part, because she's also big on, I come into a space, I take a minute, I settle, before now interacting with everybody else and everything else.
Thanks, Maria.
No, you feel seen.
Yeah, I feel seen.
I see you. We're moving into an interesting season politically, all through. I think a lot of people also have anxieties around planning for the future, and even shifting, whether it's career paths, whether it's going into retirement with a why, that it makes us all anxious, right? Are those anxieties you've battled with? And then, how would you help someone cope, if there's any way to cope with those anxieties?
I said this very carefully. Anxiety is not necessarily a very bad thing. It's how you look at it. Anxiety can allow you to be on top of your game, because you then show up intentionally. I wish I could say that there is no season in your life before an election, before leaving a job. There's no season in your life that's going to be like, oh, okay, we know how to do this. We got this.
This is the right time.
Exactly.
Now is the best possible time.
Exactly. But then I ask, what are the conversations that you are having with yourself? What is important to you at that point? And then ask yourself the relevant questions, and then surround yourself, like I said earlier, with people who you can have the honest conversations. This is how I am feeling. What's going to happen when this happens? How are we going to be when this happens? And you realize that you begin to ease the anxiety by asking the right questions, not pretending that you're not feeling anxious, because then when you pretend, you put it under a carpet, and then one day it explodes. And then people wonder, Allah, what happened to so-and-so? She was doing so okay, now she's just shouting at everyone. But having the conversation and being honest that I am feeling a sort of kind of way, and what do I need to work through that sort of kind of way.
Sit with it even when it's uncomfortable.
Right. You've asked a critical question, because it's true, people are looking at everything that's happening in the country, in the region, and sometimes that feeds into your subconscious, because even as you're doing life and you're working, and if you have kids, there's still that bigger thing that's happening, and sometimes it almost forces you you feel like you have to shift because, oh, I don't know what the future of this is going to look like. I don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's a valid question of how do you ground yourself even when things are just moving in a very unpredictable way, which can come to affect, I don't know, how you earn. It affects how you have to shift your lifestyle. Staying grounded may sound simplistic, but what's a practical thing to tell people who are just feeling like, hey, every day in the headlines, there's this going on, there's abductions, it's scary, and it weighs on you, it weighs on your subconscious.
Then again, I want to say this, you know, one of the things that really touched my heart during the Gen Z protests, let me just go there, is that a lot of young people had read the relevant acts that we're having conversations about. So that I would sit and have a conversation with my children about bills, the finance bill. They knew it. Then I would sit and have conversations with people my age and they didn't know it. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I began to challenge people of my generation, can you please stop saying don't go out there and start saying let's discuss what is causing you to go out there. So that means empower yourself with knowledge. I am the first person to be anxious about as a nation where we are going to go. But I realize that I need to be able to empower myself with knowledge. How many people of my age have read what is going to be tabled in the next few weeks? And so if we're going to say yes or no, is it from a place of knowledge or not? And that's what the young generation are teaching us. And can we please, tafadhali, I have to even say it in Kiswahili, be listening that these people are reading what they are talking about. And if they're reading what they're talking about and it's creating a certain kind of, you know, anger and upsetness, why aren't we reading it? And if we are all going to read it, then we become a force that has the necessary conversation for our nation.
How do you make all of them read it?
How do you make all of them read it? One conversation at a time.
Good.
There's no
and
other
by
way.
them here, I mean all of us, right?
Yes, all of us.
Generations.
Yes.
Because yes, there's a certain group of people who go out to seek information and engage with information. There's a certain group of people that doesn't do that. Right? And if you're saying that, you know, you're going to be more enlightened and so you'll make better decisions, how do you get to that? How do you coach people to be more engaged so they can get better decisions?
I think what I've done, especially with my generation, the people who I interact with on the platform that I have, is to challenge and just ask the questions. Do you know what this bill says about this? No, but I do know that. Stop. Let's first understand what it says about this. Because honestly, at the end of the day, you either know what it says or you don't know. And if you don't know, please do not have an opinion. I am the first to say, when somebody's giving me an opinion, you've read this, you understand it. No, but I had people saying in my chama, that's the end of my conversation with you. Because that person who said, where did they understand it?
Right.
And guess what? We read all the time. Why aren't you reading it? You know? And then it will need me and you and you and you to go to our places of worship and have those conversations. To go to our chamas and have those conversations. To go to our investment groups and have those conversations. What will change this nation is knowledge. And using that knowledge as power.
Right. I wanted to get into, as you read Taya with a Y, it's almost, there's a movie I was watching called The Internship, and it's older, older
That with Robert De Niro.
Yes, Robert De Niro nice and
Anne Hathaway, I think.
Is it Anne? But there's a guy as well. Anyway, basically older gentleman going into the workplace as an intern, starting from the bottom. There's a thing about retirement that you won't be able to start at the levels that you were. How did you cope with that one? Just, you were teachable, yes, but there is a starting from scratch elements that's there. Like you said, coming from titles and all of that in great positions and big positions. So yeah, how do you deal with that? And then how do you help other people deal with that as well when they're thinking of, I have to start from square one. Someone has to come and teach me and tell me 1 + 1 = 2. And unfortunately, they may also treat me as such.
Oh, that was when Wilson and Vince won the tall... I think that's the one.
Is that the
two
one?
movies.
There's two internship. No, no, it's the one with De Niro. Oh, I'm thinking about the one with Robert De Niro. But yes, you get my question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think first of all, you know, when I went back to school to be certified as a coach, I remember walking into the class and thinking, where there are young people, you know, and I'm thinking they probably think I'm one of the teachers or something, but I am a student. And I remember feeling the word was intimidated. At the time, you know, when you joined that cohort, you had a mentor coach, and my mentor coach was, you know, rest his soul, Michael Oyer. And I said to him, he said, you know, Michael, I feel so intimidated right now. In his calm, amazing voice, he responded and said, you know, many of them are already feeling intimidated by you. You know, because they see me as a person, as a well of knowledge. I see them as a younger generation who are coming to push me out of my seat. And I realized it was okay for me to calm down and recognize I don't know anything in this space, and then to be teachable. It was okay for me to enter retirement. On the 20th of February, 2024, I was on a website with a huge title. The next day, I was no longer on that website. The next day, I was no longer in that system. I couldn't log into the system. I couldn't.
If you had gone in and tried your card,
you see. And shortly after, I'm in a hotel going to see somebody. Oh, you're Wakonyo from where? And I thought before they said Wakonyo from da. I was like, whoa.
No, it's just Waki.
Where am I
Who's
from?
Waki?
But that thing that I was able to say, I'm here on my own accord, was so liberating because I am starting. But I'm not starting from nothingness. I'm starting from experience. I'm starting from knowledge. I'm starting from what I have learned. I'm starting from the mistakes I have made.
Right.
And I had to keep reminding myself, it's okay to be starting in this space. Just allow yourself a step at a time.
I love that. And I think it's just a message, like there is really no time where you can't learn, where you can't start, where you can't shift, right? That's just a constant reminder that we need to give ourselves. So being teachable, being open to that. I think it's good to see it practically as well.
Yeah.
Jano, I know you wanted to...
No.
I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
Nicholas Kiveu on Facebook is telling us, watch your spelling of retirement. There's no why. Wakonyo, please. Why is there why?
Thank you, Richard.
Nicholas.
Oh, Nicholas, sorry. Thank you, Nicholas. There is a why when you spell it differently. It's a why because we're talking about a tire. In your life, you're like a vehicle that's going on. And at some point, you're going to have to keep changing those vehicles. You're going to have a flat tire. You don't discard the vehicle. You come out, assess the damage, change the tire, and you keep going. So retirement is merely the process of changing the wheels. And Nicholas, I'm so excited to tell you the wheels that I'm using right now, they haven't yet been seen. So this vehicle, you know, just watch the space.
Think of it as a pit stop. I'm a big Formula One girl. It's a pit stop. They go in, change the tires. Yes, from mediums to soft, or from hard to medium, or from, change the tire quick. And then you go on for the rest of the race. I love that. Someone is also saying, retirement is so sweet. You only need to learn giving back to the community. That's Simon Dege. I think you said that shift in that feeling of, I want to be doing this more. I want to be doing that more. Some people might not get to that point. But what is the importance in giving back for you? I don't think everybody will have that itch to give back.
Maybe giving back is just how you define it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's also fair. Okay.
I like that. It's important for me because you're giving back from where you have received. You know, the things that you've received, give back. And I like what you said, that it's the way you define giving back. Giving back could just be getting people and having a conversation with them. Giving back could be educating people. I think that at every point in a person's life, there has to be that kahanga that makes you feel you want to be significant to somebody else. That's what translates into giving back.
Okay.
And I think, for example, someone like Ann Nyongesa, to them, you already gave back. Waki is a phenomenal woman. She was my boss and impacted me greatly, and in ways I'll treasure forever. You see, you were working together and you were not thinking that you're giving back, but you're actually impacting somebody. And I think, Mariam, that's what I said, maybe it's how you define it.
That's true.
Something like that is giving back.
It is.
Right? You already give back to me on a daily basis here without you knowing.
Oh.
Yeah, to a lot of us, actually.
Yeah. And you guys, to me, now that I'm thinking about it, it's not...
Don't cry now.
No. Not yet.
Sharing space, actually, not yet.
Yes.
Thank you for Anne. Anne is, she was an amazing person working with me. She's now the company secretary, heads the legal team in one of our most major banks.
I love that.
I watch her, and those are the kites that I say have flown. And those are the things that I go to bed at night and say, thank you, God, for that opportunity.
Oh, wow.
I don't like the idea of retirement for some people. And here is what I mean. So, for example, at yourself, at that point when you're at the peak of knowledge, at the peak of experience, at the peak of everything that you need to do in that space that you had excelled in boards, in guiding corporations, and then retirement means that you leave and go, I have issues with that. Like, I look at it from our military generals. You have served for 40 years as a military. By the time this guy is a general, he is well-educated, has trained here and abroad, has felt a general today, our General Kahariri today, is consuming intelligence data and, making decisions top of their mind. And then just because you've served for 4 years, you're told, go home. There's nowhere else you can go. You've served only in the military. And the next thing that be a chairman of a board, maybe somewhere. How do you navigate that? How do we make sure that we don't actually lose the gem at the peak of its value?
Can I say this carefully? You move on from a space usually when you're at your peak, because there's nothing after your peak. After your peak is who you are mentoring and coaching to get to their peak. Therein is your relevance. If I stayed in the bank until I was 70 years old, how would the people coming after me? I had such a great legal team, and there were days I could sit and know things are being done. And that was at my peak, which meant your peak needs to be a scenario where you're saying, I'm ready to hand over. It's at your peak. And then, what does your next look like? You giving back the knowledge. You've been in the military all your life. What are you going to be telling the people who are coming up? How often are you going there? Every quarter, have a conversation, mentor them, coach them. How exciting is it for me to have sessions one-on-one coaching directors who sat on boards even 10 years ago? And I was the board secretary. And now I am their coach. That for me is a peak situation, because you've gotten to where you need to get to. Now you're getting people to their peak. So peak does not mean that you now live for good. It means that you transition the way you do things.
I agree. However, it's like it's left to you to figure it out.
Figure out that transition.
Can we make a system that then also supports this? Because the system groomed you to become company secretary. Can the system then look at, all right, so we have put in so much, because they've invested in you getting to your peak. We've invested in this person getting to their peak. How can we benefit from them after they've left? How do we benefit from them coming back? The Nation Media Group board, by the way, is one such, and you can see, CEO get into the board, continue serving. Board members on NMG are past CEOs of this organization, past FDs of the organization. You're giving back in another way. So how do we do that?
The other day I was having a conversation with a group of people, and I said, I need us to start a ministry or something that caters for this well of talent that is retiring, where we have a database of all these people who have these great minds, and we're able to go out there and say, this is what we want to do for this quarter. I'll be happy to be that cabinet secretary. I'm just letting it be out there, because, like you're saying, it's too much wealth that is not being used. Let's create that, and that's what the developing world is beginning to do, so that they're bringing groups of retired people together, creating avenues for them to be able to give back in the same industries that they have just left, the same sectors that they have just left, so that you actually don't even forget about them. They're still there, but in a different capacity.
That's a really critical point you've raised. Sometimes like if certain sectors were able to be very intentional about how people are perceived or portrayed, it would shift society.
Absolutely.
But if people, for example, look at corporate and say, this is when you begin, this is when you end, it becomes the truth, even when it's not actually the truth.
There you go.
And then it affects how you move, because then you'll actually start feeling like, oh, I'm 65, I guess nobody needs me, as opposed to showing a diverse way in which you become. I think that's one of the greatest failings of society. It's changing, but it's also changing because people like Waki and many others are like, anyway, you who thinks I don't belong, I'm here. Figure out what to do with it. But people are having to step up themselves, but it can be exhausting. So to her point, it would be good if it's collective, and if it became even intentional, whether it's in even what people see in adverts or media, it's what truth is. So show how people navigate, show boss talk, a 24-year-old, right? But then also show boss talk a 70-year-old or 65-year-old. That, I think, needs to shift.
Could I just... We know Waki's answer, and it's, like I said, it's a pit stop, so I want to get the next one as well, should she decide to retire again. But I want to know, Jano, Eric, I'll think through it as well. What do you think of as your retirement with a Y?
Hey, Maria.
I love it.
Waki is ready for her answer. She's like, hey, I'm just waiting for
ready.
Sindio.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I actually keep telling myself I'm in my retirement decade now.
Tire with a YR.
Tire with a YR.
Okay.
And what I'm doing now is my retirement. Is I'm seeing, well, how can I impact? How can I do the things that I've done all those years? How can I, within this next 10 years, in the next 10 years, I'll be at that age where she was thinking, now what? Right? What is it that I'm going to do with these 10 years? And then from that point again, change the tires again to softs.
Yeah. Maybe we have a YR mindset. Similar, I think. The hilarity of this situation was, quote unquote, this was supposed to be my year of pause. And my friends and family laugh at me. They're like, your pause is different.
This is an interesting
your
pause.
is hilarious. Every
4
day.
a.m. wake up. That's a cool pause.
My folks once in a while when they're having lunch, they're like, how's your pause going?
Your pause?
But so the retirement for me was changing the tire from pause to like, okay, this is, what Latif has said, this is impact.
Right.
In a different sense, an opportunity came. I'm very grateful. I said, this is impact. And to his point, figure out the next tire change and the next one and the next one. I think that's what it is. I don't know if I fully have the answer, but I'm in it now.
Okay.
I'm in my retirement, a certain phase of retirement. After the 8 years of being off, that was that retirement.
Yes.
Now this is another retirement with an YR. What about
Coach.
you? Before coach. Yeah.
No, I haven't. I'll be honest. I think I am still in a phase. So I haven't really thought about retirement in that sense. I think, I'm opening my mind up to so many things, but it's always at the back of my mind, like, what would that look like? What would that look like? But nothing has shaped up.
The YR.
Solidly. The YR, yes. But nothing has shaped up like super solidly. I know what I want to grow in this, how I want to grow in this phase of my life. The what next? Can't lie, I don't know yet.
Leadership is somewhere in your future, my dear. So just normalize it. She's triggered. I'm like, no, it doesn't mean the leadership.
Not that one? Oh, not
no.
okay. So,
but
cool.
some leadership.
Okay. So.
You were going to resist. Okay. No, you have leadership.
I was just about to, before coach comes in. When you think of retirement, and the first thing that comes to mind, is it financial? Do you think of everything that we've been told? Oh, save for retirement, have financial independence. Is that to how many people is that what translates when you hear retirement? Money. I'll need money.
For sure. Yeah. It's one of the first things that comes up. Are we talking retirement with a Y or with an I? All of them.
Age.
Yes.
Gotten to a certain point and you decide.
Yeah. For me, it's wanting comfort. So yes, money for sure does come into play. That's one of the first things that comes to mind. But also just choice. I think that for me is freedom of choice to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and to be able to impact people's lives. That's always at the back of my mind. Now the how, that's one we'll figure out. Yeah. But coach, what's your next retirement going to look like?
You know, I'm actually in that season where I am saying that for the next period of time, I would really want to do the coaching, the mentoring, the training. And I started writing. I am actually a creative by birth. If I hadn't become a lawyer, I would have been an actress in Hollywood. Yeah, that was the plan. However, let's move on swiftly from there. So I love to write.
I know there's audition tape somewhere.
For old people, you know, like a role for an old person. Anyway, moving on.
Audition tapes, like an actual audition. No.
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Oh, I was an actress. Anyone who was in Kenya High knew that I was very good in acting.
Yes.
And my headmistress one day said I had the best of both worlds when I was finishing Form 6. She said you had the most fun that I know any student had, and you passed your exams.
Wow.
Because while people are studying for their mocks, Wakonyo is acting a play called Lysistrata. I even remember, you know.
Wow.
However,
and she still aced it.
Yeah.
Love it.
and I loved it. So I know that a season will come where I will begin to do more writing, reflections, and documenting, if God gives me the years, my own journey. So I know it will change into that. But for now, the training, the coaching, the mentoring is center stage. It may transition into just more writing. And then training coaches who can do what it is I've been doing.
Wow. My earpiece is dead, so I don't know if we're supposed to.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, we're winding up.
He was just like, we're over by a minute, so it's time to call it a day. But thank you so much to our guests today. Of course, starting with Gado and of course with Waki. We've had amazing conversations with them. I think it's a beautiful Friday. Again, as we leave, a happy Eid. Across the country, I know it's going to be a lot of celebration, a lot of eating, a lot of festivity. So be sure to share with a neighbor and let us know what you've thought of these conversations, what you've learned. And of course, how can we connect with you on social media? It's Waki_Spaces.
Yes.
Okay, Waki_Spaces. Meskia. We'll be back here on Monday, 6 to 10 a.m. Have an amazing weekend. Enjoy in moderation. Alafu tupatane Monday.
Bye.